Hello, my name is Gabby and welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here then welcome to my channel, and today's video is going to be my February 2024 reading wrap-up. This was a good reading month for me overall. I finished 7 manga volumes, a ton of random chapters, 1 audiobook, and then 3 physical books. The content warnings for everything that I can find will be linked down below in the description, and let's go ahead and get into it. Up is going to be Take a Hint, Dani Brown by Talia Hibbert. This is the second book in the Brown Sisters trilogy. It is an Own Voices spicy adult romance series, and this one follows Dani, who after a video of them goes viral, decides to start fake dating her workplace's security guard. He's secretly a hopeless romantic and she's looking for more of a friends with benefits type of situation, but it isn't long before what she wants starts to get much more complex. This is officially my first 5-star of the year, and it's also my only 5-star of this series, no matter how close the other 2 were, which I was not expecting going into this book, because out of all the books in this trilogy, I was expecting to enjoy all of them, and I was looking forward to all of them, but just based off of the descriptions, this one was the one that just ended up being last out of the 3. But this was so much fun. I loved the characters, and one of my favorite things about this book and this trilogy as a whole is how we really get a deep dive into our main characters, and this book is definitely no exception to that. There are things that were said and things that were explored in this book that I still think about and try to take with me into my daily life, which I am incredibly grateful for. But this book is also that spicy rom-com that I mentioned earlier. Their banter was funny and adorable. They're like a little bit grumpy sunshine, which is just one of my favorite things ever. And this book even managed to avoid the pacing issues with their relationship that I had with the other 2 books in this series. So yeah, it's a 5-star, and I am very sad that I have now read this whole series because I do miss them a lot. And now let's go ahead and start talking about some manga, starting with Kaiju number 8 by Naoya Matsumoto. I read volumes 4 through 9 and then chapters 74 to 103, which means at the time of filming this, I am caught up to this series. Kaiju number 8 is an ongoing Shonen Jump series that follows our main character, Kafka Hibino, who wants to chase his dream of defeating Kaiju by the side of his childhood best friend. This was a dream that he had previously given up on, but when the time comes for him to try again, he ends up gaining the power to turn into a kaiju. This is a series that I wanted to catch up to before the anime came out, which is happening very soon, which is so exciting, but honestly, I would have flown through this series anyway, adaptation or not. Like, while I was reading, and even now that I'm caught up, it is very hard for me to not be consistently reading this series because I think about them constantly. I love the characters and their chemistry and their bonds with one another. There are some really sweet relationships in here and some fun rivalries, and they also have some really fun comedy. This is a very large cast with just a ton of personality. Their story is very shonen, but again, very fun. I love all of the action scenes and the art style as a whole. And I do have a whole video on this channel that goes more in depth about my thoughts and my love for this series, because I have a lot of attachment and investment in this one, and it's for sure a 5-star right now. And on the note of Shonen Jump, next up are some chapters from series that I've been keeping up with, like Blue Box, which I read chapters 135 to 138 of, Kagurabachi, which I read 19 through 22, Akane-banashi, which I read chapters 96 through 99, and then not Shonen Jump, but kind of You and I Are Polar Opposites, chapter 49, and then a bonus story. And all of these were good. I love these series, but I do think the one that stood out to me the most this month was Kagurabachi, who is really diving into a new storyline right now, and I'm liking it a lot, and I like how much other people and Shonen Jump seem to be liking it, because I do live my reading life in constant fear of my favorite Shonen Jump series being prematurely cancelled, which we'll get into that a little more later. But next up, volume 10 of Jujutsu Kaisen by Gege Akutami, which follows high schooler Yuji Itadori, who spends his day with the occult club and visiting his hospitalized grandfather. However, he soon gets exposed to the world of curses when he unknowingly encounters a cursed item, of which he ends up swallowing. This item ends up being the finger of the King of Curses, which with these newfound powers the finger gives him, Itadori is then enrolled in the Tokyo Prefectural Jujutsu High School, where he begins his journey of becoming a Jujutsu sorcerer. This is a series that I would love to catch up to. I just have to find the courage and the strength to get through Shibuya again. I'm filming this video a little bit over a week into March, and I'm fully in this arc now, so like, it's happening, we're getting there. And I feel like I grow to love this series more and more every day, every time I read it. But part of me does want to, and kind of has been, reeling that in some to protect my own emotions, but that is just getting harder and harder to do. So I'm probably just going to let them destroy me in ways that I already know about, and then in whatever new, twisted ways that I know are ahead of me, and whatever they come up with moving forward. This is another series that is at a 5-star for me right now. I'm sure they'll keep that. And next up is Kaiju number 8, B-Side. Story by Naoya, Matsumoto, and Keiji Ando, and art by Kentaro, Hidano. I read chapters 1 to 4.1 in February. This is Kaiju number 8 spin-off series, and the first few chapters are focused on one of the characters from the main series, but it seems like they might just be doing extra stories in general. And what I really love about these series is that these chapters could very easily have been in the main series, and some of them are even helping to fill in some of the gaps that I wanted to see filled in the main series. Because even though I do love the pacing of the original series, I do feel like they can go a little bit fast at times, and sometimes things just feel a little bit skipped over. And I've been really loving like these extra flashback chapters so far, because I love getting to see more of the characters and more of the story. And the series is just giving me everything that I could want from it right now, so I have no complaints here. Next up is The Vanishing Half by Bennett. The Vanishing Half takes place over the course of the 1950s to the 1990s and follows two twin sisters who are living separate lives. And despite the lies and the miles that separate them, their paths are bound to cross again when their own daughter's storylines intersect with one another. This book had a little bit of a slow start for me. It's broken up into sections of time as it moves through the lives of these characters. I got really sucked into this story at some point, and I just wanted to know everything about these characters and about their stories, and it made this book fly by as soon as I did get into it. And even now, looking back at that first section, I've grown to really appreciate it just like I appreciate the rest of it. This is a book that is filled with incredibly complex characters. You really get to see how the experiences of these characters have shaped them and who they are throughout their lives. And there are some really terrible and upsetting people and things that happen to them and are said in here, and some of that is done by our main characters as well. Like, there's an author's note in the back of this book that talks about how this story is about transformation, and it really is. 5 stars. Next up is Evil Eye by Etaf Rum. This follows our main character who was raised in a conservative family after she has been able to chase her dreams and become a traditional wife, thinking that she would finally feel free. But when she responds to a colleague's racist provocation, she must attend counseling in order to maintain her position at the college that she works at. And she quickly finds the life that she has constructed for herself falling apart. I listened to this one on audio, and it's another one that I got pretty invested in. Our main character has a lot of extremely frustrating and irritating at best people in her life. And then also just terrible people too, and I've been really getting into and loving the exploration of anger in stories and how it can fester and build up and impact people. And this story definitely does showcase that and explore that, and it pulled a lot of my own anger and frustration to the surface as well. So this book had me invested on both a story standpoint and also an emotional level, from its exploration of anger to trauma, control, and grief. This was very close to a 5-star, but there was something that was built up to throughout the story that got revealed, and I do think that this was supposed to be a twist, but the way that it was handled up until that point made me just feel like I missed something really early on, which is unfortunate because it's a really big moment in the book that I wish I could have felt harder, because I do appreciate it, but it was more so just clarification instead of me just being in that moment and really feeling the emotions behind it. And I ended up giving Evil Eye 4.5 out of 5 stars. Next up is Lark and Kasim Start a Revolution by Kacen Calendar. This follows our main character Lark, who wants to be a writer and is trying to build a platform through social media. And when their ex-best friend Kasim accidentally posts about his secret crush on Lark's Twitter, they decide to cover for him in order to protect his privacy and also get closer to their own crush. But as Lark's social media explodes, they soon find out that they cannot be perfect no matter how much they try, and will instead have to learn how to embrace the mess. Okay, this is going to be a little bit of a long one because this book covers a lot, and it's probably one that I'm going to remember things that I wish I said about it after I filmed this video, so I'm just gonna do my best. I really enjoyed this book, and I thought that it was an interesting exploration in the teenagers and how they are navigating the world, from the hate and the politics around them while still having fun, falling in love, and chasing their dreams. And it really dives into the difference between holding yourself and others accountable and asking for that accountability from others versus canceling, which are two different things that people don't always see as different, but again, this book explores that in a really in-depth way and has its characters talk about it and even argue about it. And you see this a lot with Lark because they are on social media with a sizable following, and they do make a lot of mistakes throughout the story, both on social media and outside of it. And you see the difference between the ways that other characters react to Lark and even twist their words at times versus asking them for accountability. And you do see a lot of different topics explored and argued this way between the characters, which I really appreciate, especially for a young adult novel. And then I also just really appreciate how Kacen Calendar is seemingly able to consistently incorporate so many topics into what is not that long of a book almost flawlessly. Like, I remember feeling this way about Felix Ever After too. And while this book is filled with these topics and complexities, there are also a lot of really fun moments and a lot of light and a lot of love. Because Lark is just a character who has a lot of light and a lot of love to share. And while we're talking about love, there are some really good romances in this book, and we love to see the polyamory representation. And honestly, all of the representation in this book, because this book has a ton of it. I also really appreciated Lark's storyline around being a writer as well. I like that we got to read some of their writings and some of their classmates' writings. And now, as for my complaints, there was a reveal in this book that I didn't love because I feel like this book didn't drop enough hints about it before it happened. And then there was a love interest that I selfishly wanted more from because I liked this character and I wanted to see more, especially when it comes to this character being a love interest, but also just all around. I also do think that there were times where I wanted to see Kasim's point of view, but that's a lesser complaint of my character-related ones. Now, my last complaint is a little more unfortunate, which is just like some of the humor really missed for me and just felt so cheesy and so out of place within the actual story because not all of the humor was like that, but from time to time, when it took me out of things, it really took me out. And I will be giving Lark and Kasim Start a Revolution 4 out of 5 stars. That was a long one, so let's go ahead and finish this video off with the rest of the manga. I did try out a couple of other Shonen Jump series in February, which was interesting, and I have some mixed feelings. And first up is Dear Anemone by Rin Matsuri. This follows our main character who, with a larger group of characters, lands on the Galapagos Islands, and it follows the horrors and the experiences that they face there as they try to survive. I read the first 2 chapters of this because I was really drawn to the art style, and I still am, especially when it gets into the horror, because there are some genuinely really terrifying panels and creatures in here, which was all incredible. But at the same time, I don't know how much more of this I need to read, honestly. Like, I'm not sure how much I'm connecting with it on a character or story standpoint, but I did laugh when they said that the island was both hell and paradise. I think they actually said it twice, which did feel very fun, very self-aware, but it was unfortunately another thought that I had while reading this story, which was, I think I would just rather be reading Hell's Paradise. But we'll see. I enjoyed this more than I didn't. I'm just not too sure that it's what I'm looking for right now. And finally, we have Shadow Eliminators by Kento Amemiya, and this follows a high school student who has a very strong sense of justice that gets turned upside down and tested when he gets exposed to otherworldly beings. I read 4 chapters of this and then put it in my March TBR, and I do think that I want to read more of it. I haven't yet, but I think that I do. It has some really fun comedic timing and characters, and I also just really like the art style and kind of just their aesthetic all around. It just also kind of feels like the most Shonen Jump thing ever in both good and bad ways. And there are times where I feel like the panels could flow a little better because I do think that they're a little hard to follow at times. But it's also been fun so far, and I enjoy reading it. I am just like a little bit worried about it being canceled on me, which is maybe part of the reason why I do feel hesitant about getting more into it right now. But I do think I need to read more of it though, because I'm curious to see what potential storylines and arcs we can get into, and just what ideas are there, and hopefully they're good. Okay, so that is all that I have for today's video. Thank you all so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell, and answer the question that'll be around here if you want to do that, and hopefully I will see you here next time. Bye.